Sign up now at elevate.miami.edu for my course, Organized Rhyme.
Looking at the word legacy, while involving some wordplay, I'll use the first syllable to build upon. We'll use the first syllable, leg. For the second syllable, we'll use an. And for the third syllable, we'll use the word knee. So now we have leg and knee. Can we use it in context with legacy? Let's just see.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of What Words Are Worth. And today I got somebody that's legendary, iconic, lyricist, rapper, poet, writer. I think overall, like, I was going through the catalog and he's just extremely prolific, explicit, if you need to say that, because the clarity of what he says and his messaging and the way he puts his bars together is compelling. And also, one thing that I liked and loved about hearing his music is very eclectic. So you get some different moods, the different mountains and different layers to what he says and what he does. And, you know, he's just a gifted artist. He's been doing it for a minute, well regarded as a dope lyricist, maybe one of the best out there. Welcome to the stage, Sage Francis.
What up?
Hey, yo, man.
Appreciate that intro. Yeah.
Yeah, man. For me, it's been it's almost like a tale of two worlds in hip hop with us in some ways, right? Like I would be doing my thing where I'm at, you're doing your thing where you're at. It's kind of like there were like two movements kind of going on, like at some point. But despite, you know, whatever the movements were, because I was always able to hear like, oh, Sage Francis, he's dope. You know, like, yo, yeah, I'm going to the Sage Francis show. Yo, they're touring out here. Like, always heard your name popping up. So it's always been a constant and like consistent impact that you've been making for a while. What kind of gave you that confidence to be so consistent?
Well, I guess coming from Rhode Island and not really having, there's no real respect for Rhode Island, you know, like, but it's my home, you know, and it's what I grew up in. And I just always figured, you know, if I was ever to make any kind of impact, I'd have to go above and beyond and really make sure people knew beyond a reasonable doubt that I was dope, you know, like that
Right.
Whatever I was doing was gonna be something they had to pay attention to. So that pushed me extra hard. And once I started catching ears outside of New England, I wanted to keep those ears. So that's what kept me consistent. I just had to keep pushing out stuff. Now that came to an end at a certain point where I was like slow. I felt like I had finally, you know, been recognized for my talent and I could take a rest for a little while and focus on other things. So my output slowed down starting in like 2007, where it wasn't consistently putting out mixtapes and albums. It was more paced out since then, which is not great for a career, but it sort of was like what my life path needed.
Yeah. And I think that's a internal tug of war that we all have as artists. Is trying to make sure that we're balancing the integrity with the quality and quantity and my, you know, the passion of it, the acceptance of it from others, the acceptance of it for yourself. So I definitely could understand those thoughts. That's why I do the show, honestly, because these thoughts, there's other artists, Sage, that are like, yo, I'll go through that too. I've been there.
Yeah, the business side of things also played a part. The more I got entrenched in the industry and dealing with various labels, and the frustration of that, and the way the industry changed, it was like I was all good when it was just cassette tapes and burned CDRs. You know, like I could have lived in that era forever. It was really, that was my sweet pocket. Once things went to iTunes and then turned into the streaming, like everything is streaming. So that really just does not inspire me whatsoever. It's not the world I grew up in. It's not the world I enjoyed as a kid listening to hip hop. So it's hard for me to really identify with the listener base when that is their experience of my music. So Yeah, and also getting jerked by certain companies or people, and then you're like, you know what? Like, why am I putting so much effort into what I'm doing just to battle some fucking piece of shit?
Right.
Pardon the language, but yeah. So that affects you, you know, as an artist. Like
Sure.
you can't totally get that out of your head when you're creating. You're like, so you have to identify exactly who you are trying to contact or trying to affect,
Right.
and a lot of it is about yourself, you know, like what do you want to do for yourself that you enjoy, that pushes your limits, that makes you feel accomplished without outside recognition being considered. And that's a lot of what I've been doing for the most part since, man, for a decade now. Yeah.
Well, that's what I wanted to kind of get to. Just like you've been doing it. I've known you since Scribble Jam days. So I've known of you, I should say, since Scribble Jam, just hearing the echoes of Sage Francis and Scribble Jam. For those that don't know, if you've been to kind of like Rock Steady, or it was these hip hop events that were put together in Cincinnati, and you would have artists such as ourselves selling merchandise at the table. There would be battles going on. So it was like a showcase. And out there, you even had one year as far as battling out there 1 year, right? You won a battle.
Yeah, the first year I went was in 2000. I won that year. I made it into the final round the next year. I was battle heavy a little before that time,
Right.
but that wasn't my true strength, and I didn't expect to win. I didn't go in there like I'm going to win this thing. It just kind of, that's how the cards fell on the table. But yeah, Scribble Jam was an amazing event for independent hip hop because and it was oddly thrown in Cincinnati. You know, it's like,
Right.
so people would travel from all over the country and even the world to attend this thing
Yeah.
that had built up year after year. And it had every, you know, it had the break-in, it had the DJs, it had the graffiti and the
All the
MC battles.
elements. Yeah.
So all of it was happening in one spot. And I guess what helped it was the internet, because once the internet started to pop off and people could communicate with people outside of their territory, you know,
Right.
that's how we would make connections. And then when we go to Scribble Jam, we finally see each other in person and create crews that way. It was like we created lots of connections, and the memories are very strong and the connections were very strong. And to this day is like, even I don't even remember when the last one was held, but it stopped around 2009, I think. The last one I went to was 2004. And I just did a tour with the guy, the co-founder of Scribble Jam, Mr. Divs. And we're always talking about, so when we did this tour, it was a national tour. Almost every city we went to, there was someone from Scribble Jam who would pop in like, hey, what up? You know, like, hey, I haven't seen you in 20 years, but I recognize you immediately because it was such a good time. It was very like, yeah.
It was one of those things too, that us being East Coast and then typically know about West Coast, you were able to finally kind of go against Midwest with it and be like, oh, okay, this is what's going on here. I think it kind of felt like that. Like you always get the concert here, you always get the concert here, but never would have that type of event there. So for me, it was like, yeah, Scribble Jams out here in Cincinnati. I'm like, all right, let's go see what it's about, you know. And then getting there, that's when I started meeting a lot of other artists that were from the Midwest. And that kind of showed me that hip hop is bigger than your city. Because a lot of times, you know, especially East Coast, sometimes we feel like it's only East Coast that exists sometimes. So going over there, it made me realize like there's so many other artists out there, such as me and like Brother Ali performing, Recipes Idea and Abilities. Like that's when I started getting the notoriety of them.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely eye-opening. Because growing up, it was West Coast and East Coast for me, outside of Chicago and Twista.
Right.
You know, so Midwest was popping off. Midwest really was, I think they had the same kind of complex that I had coming from Rhode Island. Like Midwest was like, no one is checking for us. Like we have to go extra hard. And it became insular. They were, doing stuff that in a way where they were all kind of, I would say helping each other, but Chicago's notorious for kind of being a bucket of crabs, where like when one artist starts getting good, they try to pull him down. And you know, Chicago definitely suffers from that, but Minneapolis was a lot of people helping each other. And but those worlds operated together, and I got to witness a lot of that in person, and I spent a lot of time out there after Scribble Jam, and was very humbled by what they were able to do in their markets. And you know, like just building with atmosphere. Like when I toured with Slug, when I did the first tour with Slug, I was like, oh, they're carving a path here. They're like really doing something outside of what is expected of hip hop when you aren't on a big label. And they just continued to do that and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And no matter if because I feel like we were on a similar level for a while as far as sales and support, and then they just skyrocketed because they did not stop, and they built their staff, and they just got more and more people involved. And I stayed like nose to the grindstone, just doing it on a solo tip, not trying to like have a building full of people who work for me. Even though I do have a label and I do have people who work for me, but it's not on that level. It's just, it's really fascinating to watch how they were able to do it and continue to do it.
So as far as the origin of your name, so Sage Francis, is this the essence of who you are? Or is that what it, how'd you come about that?
Yes. Well, when, that's a good question because it has a long story to it, but I'll try to keep it short.
Okay.
So when I started doing graffiti, I landed on the name Sage because I really liked the way the letters looked. They were just cool to do, but I was not a good graffiti artist. But the reason I even thought of Sage is because my girlfriend at the time, when we were like 14, she was listening to my lyrics, and she was like, "Damn, you're a sage." And I was like, "What's a sage?"
Yeah.
And
I'm thinking now, like,
I didn't even know what it was. I just was like, "That's a cool word. I like that." And then a few years later, I started getting the idea that like that's going to be too common of a word. There's going to be a lot of sages out there. Like I need to differentiate it from whatever other sage comes about. And my middle name is Francis, which I was always embarrassed about. Like I kept it a secret forever. Like I never wanted anyone to know my middle name was Francis. So I thought, okay, I take the cool name, I humble it with the name I'm embarrassed by, put it together, Sage Francis. That was it. It was like, it was kind of a balance. It was like two worlds come together, and that would be me moving forward. And it's an art project, I would say, for the most part. Like my family doesn't know me as Sage Francis. And even the people I work with, I mean, my real name's Paul, but no one really calls me Paul. It's Frank, you know. Or Sage or Frank, but it's like, I don't know. I always think of Sage Francis as a thing, not me, not who I am, but it's this thing that I've cultivated since.
I think it flows. I think it has a flow to it, because that's the other thing about picking a name. When you're listening to the name, you're doing a playback to yourself. Like, can I see this rocking with me for some years to come? Because like this is the name now. This is what I'm going to be. So is this going to be something I can flow with it? So having that name, I know I read about also like being in Rhode Island, you was able to like establish like doing poetry events. And then they said something about the house that Sage built. And this is what I'm hearing. So Rhode Island, what was that like as far as, were there some artists before you out there that influenced you, or was it just being influenced by national artists?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was artists in Rhode Island that inspired me, but we did have a really good scene, and we did have a lot of talent in Rhode Island. I felt like we were always pitted against Boston, so Boston would treat Rhode Island the way New York treats Boston. You know, it's like we were like the little brother, weren't taken super seriously. And we nutted up, man. When we would go to Boston, we would take over those stages. And in fact, the first big battle I won was in Boston. It was the Super Bowl battle in 1999. And like every notable artist from Boston was part of that battle. And I won, even though they thought I was just a spoken word artist because they never really had heard my battles or anything else I did. But I became known as a spoken word artist because the only mics I could get to were open mics that were like spoken word poetry stuff. And I would be delivering my verses a cappella.
Right.
And then being exposed to spoken word, being exposed to that style of writing and the concepts and subject matter that they would explore that was not ever touched on in hip hop, that really opened my mind as to what hip hop was lacking for me, where I could say, okay, there's an open field of topics that I can explore in my hip hop that will make it unique and let other people know that hip hop's not all about how dope you are. Hip hop's not
Right.
all about abuse, like how like badass you are, whatever. There's like there's humans and we are human beings making hip hop music. How do I express my humanity in it? How do I explore my humanity in it? So I went on that path starting in like 96. That's when I was in college in Massachusetts. That's when I first got exposed to spoken word through a woman named Patti Smith, who's incredible. She's so dope. She's still so dope. Yeah, so then brought that shit to Rhode Island, started doing that stuff at AS220 in Providence and winning all the poetry battles, getting on the slam team, do like traveling for national competitions. Then that's when it got wacky. Like that's really when I started. I hate it. Like, looking back on it, I mean, it started off so cool. Then when Def Poetry Jam came about, it was cool on a national level, but it affected the scene in a great way where people were just trying to be on Def Poetry Jam or jacking the styles that they saw on Def Poetry
Yeah,
Jam.
I know what you're saying too, because there was a style that people started jacking, and I used to start it. I was like, okay, now we're not gonna do these long and then like everybody started taking the same rhythms, and I was like, all right, now I'm kind of that's not it is poetry, but let's not like stop the originality from blossoming. So I definitely I remember that phase for sure.
Yeah, it's what the problem was, the performance aspect of it took over. So it was like more performance than it was poetry. Um and yeah, so people started doing styles that they didn't even know where it came from. Like I knew where it came from because I saw the first person who did it. But many generations later, they're still doing it, and it's like, oh my god, this shit is so tiring. It's not like it may affect the crowd because that's the funny part of poetry slams is it's a competition,
Right.
and the crowd, like the judges in the crowd, are the ones you're trying to impress. And in order to win, you have to hit certain notes, and you got to like do it in this particular way where it's going to affect your score in a positive way. So
Okay. So there was like a rubric, kind of like you're saying, like they was kind of having like I guess maybe a mental rubric that they thought the judges had, like to kind of.
yeah, there was definitely formulas on how to win a poetry slam and
Oh,
how to affect the judges with your performance and what you do and the crowd in general. So as a performer myself, I totally
right,
understand that when I'm doing a show, I want the crowd to enjoy themselves. I want them
right,
to feel like they experience something very special and raw. But when you see it enough times from a poetry artist or a poet, spoken word poet, it just rubs me the wrong way. Like I'd rather just someone speak something dryly that affects me. A
yeah.
really good writer doesn't need voice inflections for you to be moved. A real writer is gonna like get you with the words on their own. And that is what I aspire toward in my music. That is how I try to approach writing songs.
Which is my
Not
next question.
okay.
Ironically, no, that's what I had next. songwriting aspect.
Yeah.
So this flows perfectly. So from the battling and the poetry slams, yes, tell us about when you started doing the songwriting. How did you recognize that it needed a different pace? It needed a different style than this other approach. When did you kind of like understand your approach needed to be different?
Well, I started writing and recording really young, and a lot of goofy stuff, a lot of me just emulating styles that I liked. And then probably once I got into college, and I was also East Coast, and I really loved the boom bap stuff. So I was doing battle style raps, but I was also telling my story. Like I was talking about depression and shit like that, and that was coming out, but that stuff I never shared. Um, I think what really, oh man, okay, so the first vinyl I put out was with a group called Nonprofits,
Okay.
and that was just me and a producer. But I was trying to like do more of a battle style, punchline style.
Mhm.
Just that's what was hot at the time, and that I wanted to be accepted by my East Coast brethren. And it was like
Yeah, that's what we were
I was
doing.
a part
Sure.
of. But also at the same time, I had become acquainted with the Anticon crew. So Anticon was doing very avant-garde style hip hop, very inspired by groups like Freestyle Fellowship and Project Blowed, which I was not really familiar with. I didn't really know much of their material at all. So
Yeah.
it was very foreign to me. Like I had
Shout out to
always
AC
had,
alone. AC
yeah,
alone.
AC alone. Hey,
Yeah.
that was my dude. That was my dude. Like he was the bridge for me to understand what was going on with Freestyle Fellowship.
Mm.
Um, but so once I started working with them and I was doing the poetry slam stuff pretty heavily, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try to bring these topics and different types of styles to my music and see what I can do with it. So I was really developing my voice right before the Personal Journals album dropped. So my first official solo album was Personal Journals, which came out in 2002. And you can hear on it, it's like a smorgasbord of styles and approaches. And I'm still trying to find like exactly what I'm doing. I'm still exploring myself on that album. And I think people hear it, and at the time when they heard it, it seems like very advanced and very different from what they were used to if you only listen to East Coast boom bap.
Right.
But I think it had enough of everything in it that people from the West, Midwest, and East Coast could identify with. And that's why it did as well as it did on an independent level. And again, thanks to Scribble Jam, like after winning Scribble Jam and then the album coming out right after that helped me as well. But the way I approach my music and writing is I try to make the words work on page as well as they work on a record. If you read them and you don't know how they're supposed to be said, it still is going to hit in a special way.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I've actually been trying to advocate for us artists and more people that are lyricists, or just trying to make sure we focus on making sure that we have the literary work that, coming from the open mic circuit, what it's like when people would get on stage and read other people's work out of a book or like read their stuff. And I always envision that's where we are now, right? Or even back then, some people would read lyrics. And reading our lyrics, I think that's why it's super important to make sure the literary work is just as strong without a beat.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah,
To be
not. I mean, I'm very word heavy in my music, so I can listen to these artists like Neil Young. Like somehow his words work very well in a song that if I read it, I would be like, this is dumb. Like this ain't shit. but it's the way he sings it. So I understand that aspect of it. But for
Yeah.
a hip hop artist, we're so word heavy. It's language, language. That's what matters for an MC. So yeah, make sure that it doesn't. If you take the beat away, make sure that you can still stand up and shine.
So I read that you have a communications degree and a degree in journalism.
Right.
So I wanted to ask, do you think the curiosity of I guess the essence of those degrees deal with, being curious, investigating, finding some facts into things, being informative. How do you think your hunger or your passion for writing and doing music and spreading a message in music guided you towards that direction educationally?
With journalism, definitely. I
Okay.
like investigative journalism. I like getting the truth out there. The communications thing was I was trying to get into media. I was trying to get into radio,
Right.
and none of that really translated. Honestly, it was a big waste of time. And even the journalism degree, I skated by because I could write. I wasn't. I was more interested in the college radio. I
Yeah.
literally only went to the school to get on the college radio station. So I was like, all right, what can I study that won't take up a lot of my time? I was like, I could do journalism easy.
Right.
I can do that. So I was not a good student when it came to journalism, but I did learn the basics. I really wanted to just do radio, and that's where I spent almost all of my time. I was hounding the radio station. I was trying to get on everybody's show. This was before the internet, so it was like the only way that I could catch ears outside of my physical space, right?
Right.
And growing up listening to college radio, and that's how I got all the best hip hop. It
Right.
just was, it was supreme to me. That's all that mattered. But yeah. So studying those topics and sliding by and getting my degree, like I never waved my degree as a badge of honor because I cheated. Like I was paying for this school. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'd like, give me my fucking shit. Let me do what I have to do. Let me learn on my own pace. Don't
Yeah.
make me read a novel a week. Like I have other things I have to take care of.
Yeah.
So my lack of respect for universities is probably something I haven't expressed much of, but when I was on fire, man, like I had my passion was in hip hop. My passion was in getting known, like literally just being known, like everything I had to do for other people to know my name so that they would check out my music and then maybe I could have a career in hip hop, which was never a thing that anyone in Rhode Island would ever consider because no one blew up from Rhode Island. No
Yeah.
one ever had a career in hip hop from Rhode Island, except for, shout out to Eclipse. I don't think DJ Eclipse started in Rhode Island, but he doesn't rep Rhode Island, but shout out to him.
Shout the Eclipse.
Yeah, man. Yeah. He was actually a bridge for me with the whole Fat Beats thing and getting an in with certain people in New York. So that was important. But
Dope. Yeah,
yeah.
man. So now I want to get into these methods of madness you have, man. So what are we doing today as far as when you're creating? Are you writing on paper still, computer, phone, write in your head? How do you jot down your thoughts?
I really miss writing down on paper. But like the term backpacker, like everyone you would make a backpack. All right.
Yeah, I was a backpacker for sure.
I'm still a backpacker. So, but people would be like, "What's in your backpack? Why you always a guy?" Because my motherfucking notebook is in my backpack. My pens are in my backpack. My cassette tape with the beats on it are in my backpack.
Yeah.
All the stuff I need to create are in my backpack. And unfortunately, I'm not rolling like that anymore because, I don't have a notebook on me. I don't have a pen on me. My phone is on me. So I'll be jotting down thoughts and ideas into the notes section of my phone. Once I will email it to myself and then I'll go into my laptop and tap away. But I've found that I will also write down things after I do that. I will get my pen and paper and I will write it down. That activates different parts of your brain. It makes you think differently. It makes you concentrate differently on what you're saying and how it looks. And so I think it's good for me to do both. I think, right, like just capturing it as soon as it comes to me on my phone and then refining it on paper, or even on my laptop. Cause I'll do, typing it also does different things, because I can communicate faster by typing on my laptop than writing and fixing things up, and also saving different drafts of what I have. Cause the way to do it back in the day was you would write it all on paper, then you would scratch out a word and write a different word on top of it. And then it becomes like this maze of words. And it was always good where if you lost your way, you could find your way back to what the original was and say, nah, that was actually better that way. So it's bad when you do it on a laptop and you're just deleting shit and rewriting it. And then you don't have that path back to the origin of the
I write it twice.
Yeah.
So if I write it one way and I come up with a new way, I cut that old way and then I put it at the bottom of the page. So I kind of like stock stuff like that because I know what you're talking about. Sometimes you will do a different word combination that works. Even just switching a word to last ending words around. You might be trying to rhyme like with car for so long, and then it's like, you know what? I don't got nothing that's dope with car, but I got something dope with green. So I'm gonna put the car in green instead, and you switch it around. And I'll actually keep both until I figure out which rhymes I think are the best ones.
Yeah. That's a good way to do
it. I understand that method totally. And then how long does it take you to write typically?
I'm very fortunate that I can write my most popular songs I wrote in a day, in an hour, 2 hours. That's so it's crazy. Like sometimes I'll take 5 years writing a song, but the ones that are most popular are the ones that just come right out of me that I don't have to think about too much. I don't have to obsess over.
So like Makeshift Patriot.
Well, I would say Makeshift Patriot was so deliberate. I mean, a lot of that song was actual reporter quotes from the television. So I compiled reporter quotes and a lot of things that I was hearing. I jotted them all down, and then I figured out how to fit it all into the song. So that took longer, but
that's crazy though. I never heard. I didn't know that. You got me now thinking of like a whole nother realm of just writing. That's ill though. That's crazy right there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that time was so. That time, everyone was fucking scared as hell. Everyone was mad as hell. Everyone was, all hearing the same things. We're all glued to the television. Right. And I'm hearing, and I had just graduated with my degree in journalism, and with a very fresh sense of ethics, journalistic ethics, journalism ethics, that were all out the window starting from then. So it was glaring to me. I was like, wow, like I'm getting a lot of editorial here and I'm not getting any actual news. So I wanted to capture that and put it in a song, because I also know how quickly people can forget exactly how things were and how their minds can be changed and be like, nah, things weren't really like that. They were like this. Like, no, motherfucker, this is exactly what people were saying. This is exactly how it felt. And I'm documenting it in song form and I was mad. I was like, where's Public Enemy's song about this right now? Like, where's Rage Against the Machine right now? They're not saying anything. And it was only a month later, but I was like, come on, man, this is fucking crazy. So that's why I did that like that. But most of the time, for a song that's popular, like Best of Times is one of my most popular songs. And it was the last day of recording the album. The music came into me at last minute. And the next morning was my last recording day, and I just wrote it that night and I recorded it the next day, and that was that. And there was hardly any revision to it. It just flowed exactly how it sounds right now. Make 'Em Purr was another song like that. Again, the last song on the album, I kind of had to rush it out just let it come out of me the way it was. And I don't know why, but I think it's because I've written so much that when it comes time for me to sit down and dedicate myself to a beat or a piece of music,
Right.
I've already explored so many paths in my previous writing, and I kind of know what to look for instinctually in my writing, and when the way the words fall out and how the words come together, and what to avoid and what to steer myself toward. And I don't write a lot. Like I can't remember the last time I wrote a full verse. I can't remember. Like it was, I think I did a feature on someone's project, and that's the last time I actually wrote a full 16-bar verse.
Now, when you're doing that, right, Sage, you're doing the feature for somebody else. What's the time frame on that? Is it the same delicate aspects of writing your stuff that you apply towards writing their stuff?
Oh, totally. Like I never want to come off as lesser than on someone else's project. So,
Right.
But what I like to do, and I think features are very easy. So it's kind of like training wheels for rappers, where if the beat's already done and someone already has the concept and already has the chorus, like me just doing a verse, I just understand what you're saying, what the chorus is doing, and then I adapt myself, and that's it. And thankfully it comes out of me pretty easily. And if it seems too lazy, I'll work harder on it. But yeah, I've never really had much of an issue of writer's block. Because when it comes time to write, it just comes out of me. So a lot of the writing, I would say, this is important. So a lot of writing isn't actual writing. Writing is done in your head. It's the way you think. It's the thoughts that you build up over time. It's the experiences you live and that come out in your writing. So 95% of my writing is not hand to page or typing out. It's me thinking about it and living it. And then when it comes time to write, boom, it's already there. I just have to find the right words for it.
No, I think the other aspect of writing and dealing with time that I would like to get your perspective on too is how do you measure your writing stuff for yourself, right? And then you already explained to me about writing stuff for others. How about how do you measure writing something for a particular company that might need something in a certain time? So let's say you get, hey, this is due in 2 months. Do you take that 2 months to kind of dwell on it and use the time that's allotted, or you just be like, I could wait till like a week before? You know what I'm saying?
I never had a situation like that, but I would probably wait until the last minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm bad like that. Like even like that's my experience in college. Like I had to do a 30-page term paper, and I waited till the very last night. The night before I had to turn it in, and I faked that paper. I faked it. I faked the sources. I faked the citings. I wrote 30 pages. I just came up with stuff that I thought was believable enough, and I came up with sources that I thought were believable enough, and that was that. Like, and I stayed up the whole night writing it on the one computer that was in the computer lab. This was before computers were all over the place. So I hogged that thing, and people were very upset with me, but I passed that fucking thing. You know, like I graduated. But like I said, like I didn't care enough about my studies to do it properly. I was more, so if someone other than me, if an outside company was like, we need something in 2 months, and be like, all right, well, you'll get it in 2 months. Then I'll think about it in 2 months.
Okay. That's what I was wondering, because coming from that background of battling, right? Now, you know, with battle rap now,
Yeah.
guys are getting months.
They're writing their own term papers about each other.
They're getting months now, right? Before, if typically battle like a Scribble Jam battle, you don't even know who you're battling to the end of that tournament. So whatever you got right there is what you got. Now with the leniency of the fact that you got so much time as a battle rapper, like they want that time. They want, I need a month to write this, and this, you know, write it towards somebody. So I was interested in seeing if, you know, if any of maybe the I guess the current battle rap methodology is how you think about it too. But because I know Scribble Jamming back when we were younger, there was nothing, no pre-writtens like towards somebody. We had what we had,
Yeah,
or we
yeah.
went up the top.
Yeah,
So
and it wasn't only that. It's like we didn't know what beat we were gonna rap over. We didn't know the tempo of the beat.
nothing.
So yeah, so you didn't know who you were going against. You may not know them at all. You know, you may
Not
not
at
have
all.
any idea who they are. That was typical. So now they know who each other is in advance, and they get a
Yeah.
lot of time to research this person
That's what I'm saying.
and memorize this dissertation, basically.
Yeah.
So it's its own game. It's its own skill set.
Yeah.
And it's own subgenre. It's like it's its own cottage industry. It's like these cats live for this. Like this is their life and how they dedicate themselves, their art. Like that's their art. And they aren't trying to release records for the most part. You know, they're not trying to make songs. Like they're living off battle raps. It's like it's WWE in a way where they've come up with their leagues, and I'm not saying it's pre-planned, like they don't know who's going to win or what, but that's how I look at it. And the same people who get into pro wrestling are also down for the battle leagues. Like they just get into people tearing each other down. I remember when I had a lot of battle rap or punchline material in my music, I remember how exhausting it felt, always trying to think of like, what's the most clever line? What's the most clever punchline? You know?
Right.
And once I gave that up, like not thinking about that all the time, not always trying to stay aware, to the point where I need to figure out the funniest, most clever way to say something. If I freed myself of that, that's when my writing became more of me and much easier, less stressful. Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious because watching battle rap now, time is like an issue with people complain about time. So just being a writer, understanding the value of time, I wanted to ask you that. So as far as dealing with the delivery of what you're saying, do you punch in or it has to be one take?
One of my styles of writing is I have multiple voices in my verses, in my songs, which I think I learned from Slick Rick. You know, Slick Rick would overlayer his vocals and like he would talk as other people in his songs. And I do that with almost every verse. So the main part of the verse I like to knock out in one shot. I don't like punching in mid sentence or whatever. I like try to do the whole main vocal in one take. And then I do 2 takes of what I call the ad-lib vocals, which are jumping in with side thoughts or clarifications or punches, whatever. But then when I record and it doesn't sound the way it sounds in my head, you know, when I'm writing it, it sounds a certain way in my head. If that doesn't translate in my actual recording, I just figure it out. I change things while I'm recording because I'm like, this is not the way it sounds in my head. Right. I have to change it. Yeah. So I can be a bit of a problem with an engineer. So I never use recording engineers now.
It's funny you say that because I got that question to ask you next was, are you at home recording or are you in the studio? And now that we know that you have some particulars about your delivery, what's your choice or what do you prefer different times?
When we were coming up, we needed recording studios. And we had to book time and then get stressed about, am I going to get this done the way I want in an hour or 2? Luckily I worked with this genius audio engineer named Chris Warren, and he teaches sound now in University of San Diego. And he has, he showed me his studio when I was in San Diego. Like he got a blank check to create whatever he wanted. And it's the most incredible setup. And I miss him because he knew how to record me. He knew my nuances. He knew my idiosyncrasies. He knew how to deal with me. I'm a problem in the studio. I am. Like he actually he texted me. He was like, "Yo, when's the next record coming out?" Or, I can't wait to hear the new stuff. I'm like, "Dog, can you record another album for me?" Because he's the only guy I was comfortable with.
Yeah.
But now, knowing how to record myself, he set me up. He helped me. Like, he got me the stuff I needed to sound good in my own home studio. So I can take as many takes as I want and never feel bad about anyone around me. Because with Chris Warren, there was songs I would do 300 takes. Like, I was a problem. Like, it had to be absolutely perfect the way I was hearing it in my head. But for me, like, I know where to go back to. I don't have to say, "Hey, can you go back to that part?" That, like, all that becomes very tedious. So I delete this. I do it all over again. I try it in a different style of voice. I will, different types of deliveries, just so I can experiment for myself, for my own sake, so I can hear, does this sound like the way I want it to sound? Yeah. Finally get it the way that I want. And it works way faster when I do it all by myself, and no one else has to be annoyed. No one else has to be put out, and no one else has to be paid. So the fact that I can do it all on myself is crucial. And it brings me back to when I was doing that as a kid, recording on my tape deck or my 4-track, the Tascam. I would do, everything had to be done in one take during that time. There was no punch-ins on your Tascam. So I found workarounds though. And I'm not a very technical, I'm not good with technology. I'm not really great. Like, I learned Logic Pro, and that's about as far as I'll ever get. So I know how to edit my vocals, but I don't know how to mix into all the. So thankfully there's other people who do that stuff for me to make it really sound professional. But actually recording it, I can do that on my own.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Mixing, I gotta send that out. Mixing and mastering, gotta send that out. I'll record myself, but everything else I'll send that out. And then as you start going through this process of creating, do you like to have the beat first, and the rhymes already prepared, or vice versa? How do you do it?
It's either or, really. I typically write a lot of stuff to silence. I have a lot of really good, like, dope production waiting for me.
Are you writing the whole song in silence, or you writing like a few bars and you put it together later?
Yeah, it's not a full song. I just kind of like write without a beginning or an end.
Okay.
So the words will come to me and I'll just start jotting them down, and I'm playing around with word combinations, and I'm figuring out where I can go and what things I like to mention, or what just gets captured in the ether is kind of like, that's a fun, interesting word combination or a concept. I'll write that down. And sometimes I'll just write with no concept of how many bars it is. It's just like, if it's coming out of me, it's coming out of me. And then I find I would like later edit and say, this is the best section. This is where something special happened. And I can flesh that out into a full song. But when I have a beat that's like, that hits me properly, I can sit down to that and carve out the whole song from start to finish, and without using any previous writing. But I love having the option. If I'll listen to a beat and then I'll go through my writing, like all the stuff that had no home, and see what fits that style, that mood, and that tempo. But like I said, the best songs I did is like, I just wrote on the spot. And I should do more of that. I probably will do more of that, but I guess I'm not. This is weird to say, but I don't take it seriously enough. I know I'm lauded as like great lyricist, but I don't take it seriously enough. And maybe I should, but I live my life, and then when the opportunity arises, I write it down. And I don't like feeling like writing is a job. I don't want to ever feel like it's a task I have to do. It's
Yeah.
really just something I love to do. And everything that you love, you like they say, if you do what you love, you'll never work. It's bullshit. It's like I love hip hop, but it feels like work a lot of the time. It's not
Mm.
fun, you know. But writing is the only fun part of my work for me. A lot of the time, it's like creating and recording. I love those aspects of it. It's just everything that surrounds it that kind of extracts the joy from the process. So some of it has to be for me a private matter and something I just do for myself. And thankfully it translates into what other people enjoy.
And then when you're, I guess, picking the beats, how did you, or when did you decide that I'm gonna rap on this style of beat? I'm gonna rap on this style of beat. I'm gonna rap on this style of beat. Like I'm listening to Copper Gone, and I'm listening to all these and then
Yeah.
I had read about I think he had signed to a label, Epitaph, if I'm
Yeah.
right, right? There was
Yeah.
like punk rock. And so then I was like, okay, I can see some of that maybe influence there, or you already were in that bag with that. But overall, listening to music from your career, it seems like you're just fearless and you just go with, this sounds good. I was listening to the Copper Going and I was like, this is kind of like arena music, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, yo, this is big sounding.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of just, I guess, get comfortable with, I'm gonna rock on what I like to hear?
Okay. I think what helps me do that is as a kid, writing and rapping, but not having beats, I would have to find things that I could rap over. So whatever piece of music that I could get that didn't already have vocals on, I would write a song to it and I would shape myself to that and try to
No.
incorporate what I loved about hip hop into it. And that was as a 9, 10-year old, 11-year old. And I didn't even get real beats until I was probably in my 20s or very late teens. Cause beats weren't available the way they are now.
And you had to have somebody, hopefully, in your crew that was the producer. Like you had
Yeah.
you had the rapper, maybe the dancer. The crew
Yeah.
was made up different. If you didn't have a producer in your crew,
And I didn't until my fourth year of college. I didn't have a guy who was making beats that I could get beats from.
right?
So yeah, and I worked with a band. So before I had someone making beats for me, I was working with a band in college
Okay,
called
that's
AOI. So that like me working with those musicians and being frustrated by it because I really wanted boom bap beats. Like I really wanted sampled beats. I didn't want to be rapping over live music, even though it's cool. Like that, like in retrospect, that
okay.
I had access to incredible talent and I kind of like did it begrudgingly because I didn't have any other way to perform. Later on down the line, yeah, I willingly now work with live
Yeah,
musicians. Yeah.
and it's
So
dope hearing a live musician play some boom bap stuff like Nas at the Kennedy Center, and you're
yeah,
hearing or you just see different. It's kind of crazy now when you see or like the Roots play something live for somebody. You're like, oh, that
yeah,
sounds crazy live now. But yeah, I think maybe just coming up younger, kind of you have to kind of shed some traditional things as
yeah,
we evolve. So we're like, what band? I don't know nothing about no band, man. I need this type of
yeah.
beat. I need the
That
MPC.
you know what? That's important that you said that. That can't be overlooked. It's the fact that you had to shed traditions and things that you grew up feeling was fundamental to the music that you loved. So now when I talk about it, I think the new generations of people don't really understand how ingrained that was in us, that a hip
Oh,
hop beat had to be a certain style. Yeah, and your bravado had to be a certain way. And I shed a lot of that. So I broke a lot of those rules that offended some people in hip hop, and I earned my haters along the way. And I can't even say I loved it a lot myself, but it was circumstantial for me. And me having to work with all different styles of music, and bend my writing toward it and work within it, like forever now, no matter what kind of music I get, I'll figure out how to make it my own. I'll be able to write to it, and I believe I can make it a dope song.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to your longevity, especially me being where I was during my career and doing whatever I was doing. Like, your name would always resonate because I think a lot of us, especially me and probably like a lot of people that I was growing up with, we were trying to, I think it was a struggle with identity of where to go with doing the music, because we were so caught up with tradition. If we're not having this and having that. So hearing your music and hearing it get played and hearing the diversity that you would have in the music, I think it definitely, it gave us a lot of like encouragement that we probably wouldn't admit to it, but we definitely were encouraged to hear what you were doing, because we knew that the records weren't going to always sound the same. And we, as traditionalists and people that want these boom bap sound, this and this and that, we were like, man, I don't know if I could rhyme on that or I could do that. It took a lot of us years later to do some of the stuff you've been doing. So I just to give you another perspective of how we were viewing that, we were like, man, I don't know if I could do that. And you were doing it from the jump, which I think is a testament to your longevity. You were just way ahead of your time and ahead of the curve, having that fearlessness, which a lot of artists now have fearlessness. So you'll hear the eclectic, a kid come rapping on this and doing that, and a lot of that, it definitely, I would say, stems from having that lack of fearlessness and when you started. So I definitely want to big you up for that, because I can give a different perspective of how I'm experiencing you, Atmosphere, and everybody, and what y'all were doing, while a lot of us other people were kind of figuring out, okay, what's our identity to be here long term, because they're touring, they're out there, they're selling records, they're doing their thing, and we're trying to figure it out without feeling like we're going to be disrespectful. You know what I'm saying?
I think that was being in New York, like, because you obviously the mecca of hip hop,
Right?
Like, there's a lack of freedom at the same time as I was afforded that freedom because I was outside of that realm. I could visit New York, but I was not New York. I was not beholden to the things that a lot of New York MCs had to like hold on to.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I didn't know it was a blessing, but it was. To me, it was a curse.
Definitely. It's definitely a blessing, man. And like that's why I enjoy talking to you today, because I can actually give you my perspective of like how people were viewing it and admiring your style, in which it was important for me to do this interview today. So I want to big you up on that. So what's the atmosphere when you're writing as well? Is it have to be morning time, afternoon, nighttime, no lights, noise, people in the room?
I feel it's best when I'm traveling. I feel it's best when I'm on a plane or in a train station, in a place full of bustling, like people, busy stuff's going on, but I'm in my own bubble. No one knows who I am. No one's talking to me. I feel like some of my best writing comes in those circumstances. I don't know why. It's like I just am able to hyper focus on the page. And the reason I'm even saying that is the last thing I wrote that I think is really incredible. I was in an airport and my flight was delayed, and I had time to like actually take out a real notebook and write in it. And I wrote and I started crying, and I was like, oh, I hit something here. Like, wow. Like, I didn't really think I could do that to myself. And I don't think I could have done that in any other circumstance. Like, when I'm home, I have chores to do. I always have something to do. But when I'm somewhere else and I'm put out, like if I'm somewhere else and I don't have anything to do and I can just do that and no one will interrupt me, that's when it happens. That's the best atmosphere for my writing. But I guess
how about when driving? You drive?
Oh, I just drove 10,000 miles.
Oh yeah. All right. So how about like that
um,
driving serenity sometimes of like you're thinking about something, you play the beat and y'all are driving on the tour. What's that? Do you
I'm a weirdo. I'm a weirdo, man. I mean, I drove myself literally 10,000 miles.
right?
I didn't know how to connect my phone to the car. Like, I didn't know how to play beats. I didn't know how to play music I liked. So I was just switching radio stations like every 5 seconds.
Oh man.
Um, but a lot of thinking happens. So, like I said before, most writing for me happens in my head with what
Right.
I think about and what conclusions I come to, what worlds I enter if I think long enough about it. And then when it comes time to write, that's when it comes out. So
Okay. So you could
yeah,
you can kind of retain. You have a way to retain. Yeah.
yeah,
The
it just
thought.
fall. I mean, I don't purposely do it. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
a mental container that I know I can store things in. I just trust the process of when it's time for me to write, I get the beat, the thing does come out of me, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm blessed for that. I'm not like, I know it's not like that for everybody because I hear what other people talk about and what they write about, and I'm like, you didn't think about this before you wrote it. Like, I can tell when someone's not a thinker, someone's not really building up the actual good thought. They're putting out the first thought. They're not putting out the thing that they really figured out. It's just kind of like, so even though I say it flows out of me, it's the first thing that
Right.
comes to me. It's already been refined in my head
All
somehow.
right. So then listening to the music, you have a way of telling a story. So whatever the topic is, you have a way to put these words together and telling the story that's either something personal or something that's informative, but you're able to narrate it in a way that you have a lot to say as far as like the wording. So like this styles, right? So the styles, we have the styles of like close the door, open shores, and then I list some more. Like you're able to like express it in an artistic way that it's almost like an essay sometimes. Like I'm listening to a full sentence of you paint something.
Yeah.
So how important is it for you to kind of be in sync with making sure you're saying everything in this short time, the short time span, but you have your thoughts are real drawn out, like well thought of and drawn out, like clear.
Yeah, I think editing, me over editing myself, and to the point where I'll have way more than I need, and then I can condense it and only keep the best parts of everything,
Right.
and refine it from there. Um, as far as storytelling is concerned, that's the hardest part for me. I think that's very challenging to any songwriter to actually tell a real story. Who are the really great storytellers in hip hop? Someone who can, like, take you from start to finish, take you on a journey, and they never, they don't go on any detours or anything like that. I mean, there's very, very, very few artists who are that talented who can tell a good story in a hip hop song. Like Scarface, I think, is a great storyteller. But yeah, I'd have to rack my brain to really come up with top three. Like, who do you think's like really ill at telling a story in a song?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, you kind of you go with you got Slick Rick there. For me, it would be Coogee Rap. Uh,
Yeah.
I'd say Coogee Rap, Ill Street Blues, and just the way he would be very graphic with it. Of course, Nas. Um, it's those are kind of my like favorites. And that's probably like being East Coast and growing up under that umbrella of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, Pharaoh Monch, like Stray Bullet, like that's an incredible
that's
story.
a crazy story too. I mean, if I had to just say, I would probably say Nas. Nas overall, overwhelmingly for me, because when he started rapping, just in general, when you listen to, I mean, as soon as New York State of Mind come on, I mean, it just
Yeah.
you just feel like you're sitting in the hallway. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, well,
you
that his great strength has been, especially on Illmatic, was he paints a picture. It's not even the story that he tells; it's how well he can paint a picture in phrasings and um, yeah, yeah.
it's
I
just
mean, that
so
album
natural.
inspired me
I
a
think
lot.
his rhyme. his rhyming feels real natural. Just as like I woke up early on my born day, and it's like, okay, where you going with this? It's just real natural of him talking to you, and it just flows kind of effortlessly. So I would definitely say it's Nas. But I say G-Rap, but Nas comes from that school of G-Rap and Rakim.
Slick Rick as well. Yeah.
So you get the next level of it. And then now there's so many other artists that I can point to that tell dope stories, like 38 Special. If you hear 38 Special rhyme, he'll tell a story and you'd be like, man, that's kind of crazy. It's so many dope artists.
I'm admittedly not like, I don't know who that is, and I'm not up on lot of new MCs. So I need to check it out.
Yeah, 38 Special, his rhyme patterns are very dope, man. You can check him out. Him and Benny the Butcher put out an album together. So like that whole Griselda realm, when they're talking about life, I love the rhymes they're able to put together. Those are the people I kind of listen to now. If I want to get a boost into writing something, I'm like, okay, because when we came up and how we're wired that we hear some fire, you have a competitive edge of the essence of MCing goes, oh, okay, let me let me push myself. So those are some of the people that I currently listen to and have inspired me throughout the years to just kind of think differently. I wanted to ask you also, when you're writing, how do you know when it's done?
I think I know it's done because I feel it's done. when I say something where I've encapsulated something and it's fully encapsulated, I'm not leaving loose ends. The verse is easy. The song is more difficult. To say a song is done is more difficult for me, but a verse, it's like, it's just a little egg. The song might be the whole chicken, but the verse is an egg. And that's, if you write enough verses in your lifetime, you kind of know that's done. That's it. And some people need to figure out when they're not done, because a lot of verses don't need to just be 16 bars long. Like you have to keep going, because you haven't finished the verse yet. It's not ready for a chorus. It's not ready for a break. And I'm good at that too. Like I think I'm very unconventional with how long my verses are, or how awkward a number of bars I use. But I go until I know the egg is complete,
Yeah.
And I'm not going to overdo it.
I think I was listening to the album and I was like, some of these songs are like 4 minutes. Like some, like the convention today is like, you don't even dare to do a song over 2:30, 3 minutes a lot of times. So I was listening to some of the songs and it made me go like, man, this is what we were doing until they just kind of like, nah, don't do that no more. But I'm used to the 4 minute song, maybe 3 16s, 2 16s, and an 8. I'm used to all of that. So like it was me listening to the music. I was just like, all right, I'm normalized with this. Average a lot of people today would be like, man, that's kind of long. If people listen to old stuff now that I've done, and they'll be looking like that stuff is long, but it's like, nah, this is kind of what it is. If you need this space, this canvas, like you're saying, paint on the canvas.
Are people creating song length due to playlists and stuff like that? Is that what they're gearing their songs toward?
It's more so it became this thing now of 2 16s and that's it. So 2:16 hook and and you out of there. So the attention span has waned down because of how it's been now, right? Everybody 5-second clips or 30 1 minute clip. So now that it's kind of been normalized for the most part, you watch music videos. I mean, tons of music videos. Everything's like 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 3 minutes. And I think also it's been done that way too to get more money out of the spins, because if it's such a short song, I bring it back again. Yeah. So if it's too long, it's like, all right, I'm gonna listen to something new. But the being that it's short, I do find myself sometimes liking something, and I will bring it back because it went off so fast.
Yeah,
So I think, yeah,
some of the songs that I've that are most popular for me are like 2 minutes long. Well, like
right.
earlier in my career, and people would be like, "Why is it so short?" And I'm like, "It's done." Like when I know it's done, like, I'm not going to prolong a song. Like I said what I needed to say. Then the music did its thing, and that's like that's how long it is. Like there's no other explanation other than when it's done. So don't force, like if it's even if it's one man, I think my most popular song is Sea Lion. It's literally one verse. Literally one verse. That's it. There's a singing chorus, one verse, a singing chorus is done. And it's
Right.
it's the most requested song of mine. And it's the song that most people gravitate toward outside of maybe Best of Times. But I know for live shows, that song is the one that everyone wants.
And they probably bring that back, Sage, like when they're by themselves. You can only
Yeah.
imagine how many times they play that song by themselves because it's that format.
Yeah,
Because
but no one's ever said something's missing from the song. Like,
right.
why I need another verse. No one's ever said that. And I'm just realizing that right now. Like, I can't believe that I've never gotten that complaint for Sea Lion.
Yeah, I would think people that are fans of yours or just people that's listening to the music, if that's what it is, that's what it is because they know they can't. This is what it is. So I
Yeah.
have to accept it. He can't call him up and be like, "Yo, Sage, add another verse." It's going to be what it's going to be. So I think people will go with that. It's just now it's just very normalized to be with this 2 minutes, 2:30. You do 3 minutes, you kind of pushing the button. If it's a feature, you might have 3 of y'all doing verse, so that'll push it to 3 minutes. But for the most part, that's kind of where we are with it. So I wanted to ask you about also, Strange Famous Records, right? That's your label. So you were telling me earlier about kind of like issues that you had with a label, which we've all probably encountered in some shape, form, or fashion. So when starting this record label, what did you envision, and has it become what you've envisioned?
Strange Famous was for me mostly right in the beginning. It was me putting out my own mixtape and just coming up with a name, like a record label name, Strange Famous Records. But then I got distribution, I got physical distribution, and then I was working with publicists. And then I had a full machine that I could apply to other artists. I'm like, all right, well, now it's a real record label. Now I can plug other artists into this system that I created for myself. And we have our web store. We already know how to create the merchandise. We know how to mail it out and do all that stuff. So it's like, so for artists who weren't familiar with the process and didn't have the wherewithal to do it themselves, I'm like, and if they were dope and I trusted them, or they're, like we were good with one another, they were always welcome to work with Strange Famous Records. So we've worked with a multitude of artists over the years, and international artists as well.
How has that experience been for you as far as now you're being the boss, the CEO? Of course, you're probably seeing some of the things that you dealt with previously, and then having maybe even a clearer understanding of why certain things were dealt or handled a certain way. Do you like the role you're in now because you can control those mistakes that may have been made in before?
Yeah, a lot of those don't apply anymore. That's how wild this industry has changed over 2 decades. It's like
Okay.
when I first got into this, and a label where I was getting records into stores, and then things went digital, things went streaming, and then physical distributors wanted rights over your digital rights for streaming, which is like free money for them. They don't have to do anything. Like you're not actually working to have my my music on Spotify and whatever else. So after a while, I got sick of that, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna bother dealing with distribution anymore. We'll do it all ourselves, and that means we work on a smaller scale.
Nice.
And a lot of the artists aren't able to make a living off of music the way I was, the way like we probably were privileged enough to come up in a time where people were accustomed to buying music in order to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening with Strange Famous is we ended up working with artists who weren't relying on music to be their bread and butter.
Dope.
You know, so they have their job, they have their
Yeah,
full-time
that
job.
alleviates that stress.
Right.
From
Because
yeah.
I'm not going to throw 20 grand into a project and then not ever see it come back. So
Right.
they have to understand that, like, we can't invest crazy amounts of money because there's a very low chance anything's going to ever break. And we don't have money like that. So
Right.
you have to be, we're taking it back to the essence now. It's literally like you do it for the love. Are you impressing yourself? Are you impressing me? Are you pushing your craft to the point where I would want it to be on Strange Famous Records? So we work with a pretty tight unit of people. I think we got like 8 or 9 artists in groups that we work with regularly that are all working together too. It's a community of artists who know how to help one another out and that I facilitate. And I'm very happy I've kept it going this long because I almost gave up on it. I was like, what's the point? Like, I should just focus on the Sage Francis albums and my career. But honestly, it's probably what's kept me going, and like to this point where it's been 11 years since my last solo album was out. So this year I'm releasing another one, but I wouldn't have the infrastructure to do so if I wasn't putting out other people's albums all this time and helping them facilitate their projects and keeping my wheels spinning so that I know how things have changed and know how things are going, and I can adapt it to myself and adopt all of that. So yes, the record label stuff, I mean, I've dealt with huge labels, I've dealt with smaller labels, indie labels, and every one of the labels that I worked with failed me on one level or another, but also propelled me on one level or another.
Mm-hmm.
So if I hadn't worked with Anticon, like, they gave me a $1 advance. This was in 2001. Like, they weren't putting money into me, but they did put money into the album. They did get me into record shops. They did get me a publicist.
Right.
And that blew up. That was their best-selling album. And I don't think I ever got, and I got paid very well for that album, but I don't think I got paid everything I was supposed to be paid because they had some people on the business side of things who weren't totally on the level. And eventually that's why Anticon disbanded and fell apart as a label. But the core members of it are still cool, but it's like the business members were not dope. So and then I could shit on every label that I've worked with, but really I'm happy I've worked with all of them because I learned a lesson one way or another, and they all helped move my career along. And that's all I would love to do for other artists and platform other artists that I believe in through Strange Famous, because we've built up such a loyal following, and there's a expectation of quality and dopeness and our particular bend and style that I like what we've built. I like that others have helped me build it. And it wasn't just me micromanaging everything. It's like Storm Davis on my side, like rocking like so many tasks that I don't even know about anymore. Like, I used to, if I employed somebody, I'd be looking over their shoulder all the time. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're doing this right? That's not right. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I've matured as a person, but I also have finally found like a great team of people.
So I wanted to ask you, what are 3 songs or albums, or 1 song, 2 songs, could be whatever number you want, for someone that's never heard of Sage Francis? Like, yo, you want to get to know me, I would say check this song out, check this project out. Because I hit you yesterday. I was enjoying, man. I was like excited to go research you, man. I was like, because like I said, I knew of you from afar in a way. So I was able to follow your career, but I wasn't able to hear everything, which is what happens to a lot of us. with so much traveling on the road trying to do our thing, we hear songs here and there, hear features, but we can't hear everybody's albums like all of them. It'll be impossible. So I really enjoyed like yesterday going back and checking some stuff out. So what songs or what what album would you suggest?
Well, I do like, let's do 3 albums, because like I Personal Journals was my first solo album. And like I said, I threw everything and the kitchen sink at it. I wanted people to know every style I could express. Everything was on the table. And as far as I was concerned, I would never have another chance to say these things. So that's why it's called Personal Journals. It was like, here's my life, and it's raw. So there's a certain that could catch a lot of people's attention or turn them off because it's not consistent enough, or they're like, I like this kind of beat, but he only has 2 of them on the album, and then there's a live band here. So, but yeah, Personal Journals, A Healthy Distrust was my biggest album, most political, socio-political album, but also shows a great range. I think it's my best sounding album, hip hop wise. Chris Warren again engineered it and got my vocals sounding very, very nice throughout the whole thing. And I'm doing a lot of interesting things vocally on that album. The Life album, which is probably my least popular album, but it's all live musicians, and I'm doing a lot of storytelling on the Life album. And it's unique in that way, and it's not my typical sound. So I feel like that catches different types of ears. So my core fan base, a lot of them probably were turned off by that album because it's not what they would expect from me. But people from outside of hip hop who would hear it, I think would be more apt to enjoy it and take it for what it is at face value, and not compare it to other things that came before it. So,
yeah, I think also a lot of people might be catching up to the style that you were doing then. That's kind of how I see it too. Some like the stuff you were doing, like stepping outside of the box. Now everybody wants to step outside the box, you know. So,
right. So I found that with my albums that it takes about 5 years, and then everyone acts like they always liked it. And I'm like, I got shitted on when that came out. I was getting shitted on, and now you love it. So thank you for coming around, and thank you for growing up. But like I remember exactly how I felt every time a record came out, and how the people reacted, and how media reacted, and yeah, that just is what it is. Like some people, they just need a little bit more time to catch up and figure out what's going on. That's all.
Well, Sage Francis, man, please give us social media. I'm gonna put, the Strange Famous Records website on here so people can see where to go for that. But like, how do people get in touch with you? I know the Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, Sage Francis SFR. I'm on the Twitters, Sage Francis. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky, Sage Francis SFR. What's the other one? Threads, Sage Francis. And on TikTok, Sage Francis SFR. So I'm pretty much on every single social media site. I'm not totally active on them. I try to check in on them every day, but yeah,
I'm not active on all of them either. I'm like you too. Like 1 or 2, I'm kind of primarily on Instagram, Facebook. They're linked to other pages, so stuff might pop up. But like, I'm not on every one like that all day.
Yeah, they made it impossible. They decentralized us, and they scattered us around the internet, and now we got to play that game. But hey, thank you so much for having me on this show. It's such an honor to talk to you and be part of this.
Man, it's dope for me because of us being here so long. And like I said, like, man, I've always admired what you were doing from afar. So I never really was able to delve into your success. I knew it was successful. I knew about atmosphere. I knew about all of that being successful because I would come out to Midwest shows and be in certain places and performing. So I always knew how successful everything was. But for me, with this, I get to actually go like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Oh, this is why he's so successful. And I think a lot of people will understand that too as well. So I appreciate you taking time for this interview. And also, man, you were able to like allow me to like give me a moment to research and hear music from you, because Man, there's so much music we've done throughout the years. We do not get a chance to hear all the music that we've put out. Even some, I mean, even people like we're close with. We might have friends that we're with all the time, and we're like, I didn't hear that album.
No, yeah, it's totally like that. Almost, yeah. It's funny you say that because I was like, I just toured with people, and I'm like, I have not heard any of this stuff. I don't know what. You're my homie though. Like yeah.
And I think that's what's so funny. Like people probably would assume like people that are hanging out together or touring together heard everybody's music. No, we're just like y'all. Yep. We don't get to hear everything. We try to hear the single if we can. We'll see the video if we can. But to listen to every album, is so much life going on that is very difficult. So I appreciate your time, and this is dope, man. Thank you, man. Once again, man.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. So well, hopefully I see you in person at some point.
Right. Man, I didn't know you were in Rhode Island, so now I can have a thought process about that if I'm in that area or trying to be that way.
Yeah, I'm in Connecticut right now. That's where I live
in Connecticut. Okay, yeah. Dope. Yeah, so if I'm up that way, I can be like, okay, I know who's in this area, so I can start figuring that part out. But yeah, man. So make sure y'all like, subscribe, hit the notifications. The link descriptions will be down in the bottom. So make sure you click on Strange Famous Records and order everything from there. And like always, thank you for your time. And what are your words worth? Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Man, thank you, man. This was